Problem 123, we're evaluating some expressions. So whenever we're taking a look at these problems, whether it's sine, cosine, tangent, whatever, what we need to do first of all is locate that angle on the unit circle. So if I make a quick sketch of the unit circle, I want to find 2 pi over 3. So to find 2 pi over 3, I'm going to first of all remember that right here is 1 pi. This side here is 2 pi. So that angle right there is 1 pi. That angle there all the way around is 2 pi. So 2 pi over 3 then, what I need to do is I'm going to take a look at my reference angle. My reference angle is going to be a pi over 3. So I can rewrite 1 pi as 3 pi over 3 because the 3 over 3 just makes a giant 1. It still equals 1 pi. But what I can do then is if I subtract away a pi over 3, that locates this here at 2 pi over 3. So this angle measure right there now is 2 pi over 3. Pi over 3 now is my reference angle. So pi over 3 being my reference angle means that is a 60-degree angle. And the reason why it's a 60-degree angle is because 3 goes into 180 3 times. So if 1 pi, right here, this is 1 pi. If that's 180 degrees, well, a third of that, so a third of pi is the same as a third of 180, which is 60 degrees. So my reference angle is 60 degrees. That gives me this triangle right here. With 60 degrees there, there's my right angle. That's 30. So now I need to know my special right triangle information. Hypotenuse is 1. Opposite my 30 is my short leg, which is a 1/2. And since we're in quadrant 2, it's negative. Opposite my 60 is the long leg, which is the square root of 3 over 2. And that is positive because it's a positive sign. So now I need to take a look at tangent. Tangent is the opposite over the adjacent. So to solve this problem, I'm going to do tangent of 2 pi over 3 is going to equal my opposite, which is the square root of 3 over 2, divided by the adjacent, which is 1/2. Instead of dividing by a fraction, I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal. So this then equals square root of 3 over 2 times the reciprocal, which is negative 2 over 1. I make a giant 1 here with my 2's, and this then equals a negative square root of 3 over 1. You don't need to have the over 1. So tangent of 2 pi over 3 equals negative square root of 3. So if I do the same thing for problem B, again making a quick sketch here of my unit circle, 1 pi right here. So now pi over 6 is my reference angle, so I'm going to make this into a 6 pi over 6. It's still 1 pi. And now I need to add, if I add 1 pi over 6 to 6 pi over 6, I'm going to get this triangle, which is at 7 pi over 6. My reference angle being pi over 6, 180 divided by 6 equals 30 degrees. So my reference angle pi over 6 is the same thing as a 30-degree angle. So that's 30. This is my 60. There's my 90. So again, my side lengths opposite my 30 is 1/2. So this side here is 1/2. It is in quadrant 3, so that is negative. And my cosine is opposite my 60 here, and that is my square root of 3 over 2. And again, in quadrant 3, that is also negative. So now setting up my problem, tangent of 7 pi over 6 is going to equal the sine, or the opposite, divided by the cosine, or the adjacent. This one has a little bit more math involved, so when I multiply by the reciprocal, I have negative 1/2 as my numerator, times the reciprocal, a negative 2 over square root of 3. Giant 1s. 2 negatives make a positive, so now I have 1 divided by the square root of 3. So what I need to do next is now I need to rationalize the denominator. My denominator, square root of 3, is an irrational number. So I'm going to multiply by the square root of 3 divided by the square root of 3. Again, just another fancy 1. It's a giant 1. But what that does for me is now when I multiply my numerators, I get the square root of 3. But when I multiply my denominators, square root of 3 times square root of 3 is the square root of 9, which is 3. And that is now my answer. I've rationalized the denominator. It's simplified. So tangent of 7 pi over 6 equals the square root of 3 over 3.